People at swimming pools are absolute monsters. Welcome to Groovy Movies. My name is Lily Austin.
And my name's James Brailsford. Hello.
Hello. It is the season finale.
Again, season 3.
Season 3 finale. And also, this is Christmas week for our listeners. Are you having a good time? How's it with the family? Have there been any arguments?
Have night and day merged into one? Has not drinking become not a thing and it's just one thing where you're a bit drunk or a little bit hungover? What's happening?
As in it's no longer about having a drink, it's about having a sober moment kind of thing.
Possibly.
Your body is more alcohol than water.
You are just a walking liqueur. And, it's just this fuzzy haze of like overindulgence.
You know what? I'm already feeling it. We're recording this the week before Christmas, and I'm actually quite hungover for no reason. I was just decorating the tree and watching The Crown last night. I shouldn't have drunk so much. But, it's that time of year, baby.
My brother visited the other day and brought a hamper for me, so I just was tucking into that bad boy. And I think it's meant to last much longer than it actually has. So,
oh, a hamper, that's so nice. I love that.
Yeah, it's delicious.
It's very grown up.
Well, I'm a grown-up kind of person, Lily. I don't know if you've figured that out yet from the hours and hours of times we've spent talking to each other. I'm a serious adult.
You're very much an adult. I was at the swimming pool the other day and this little boy almost swam into me and his teacher was like, "You almost hit that woman." And I was like, "Oh my God, am I a woman?"
You are a woman.
I guess I must be a woman. This is alarming.
You're a serious woman who doesn't like kids hitting into them in the pool. You obviously look like you've got the potential to kick off, so she was placating you.
People at swimming pools are absolute monsters. I've been told off so many times. Anyway, look, we're digressing. Should we stick to what we're doing?
Sorry, yes, we don't usually do this kind of chit-chat stuff. We normally get right into the meat of it. Sorry, listeners, I know you're probably chomping at the bit there, like, oh, enough of this getting just small talk nonsense.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, sorry guys. Yeah, we're not that kind of podcast. We know what you're here for and we're going to give it to you. So, for the season finale, as it's post-Christmas, we're in that pre-New Year, post-Christmas never region, if you will. So we are going to discuss Bridget Jones' Diary because I feel like that is the ultimate film for this time of year. It's about New Year's resolutions,
making plans for the year ahead.
Yeah, intentions. And it's bookended. It starts and ends at Christmas. And it's also, I have to tell you, probably top 3 favourite films and definitely the film I've watched the most in my life.
Wow. So where does Practical Magic, for example, rank in that? Is that in the top 3 or is that top 10?
Oh, God. James, it's like hard. This is like swirling all around in the same
yeah. I'm the same. It's hard. But if you're going to make that claim for Bridget Jones, I'm just curious as to calibrate myself. Where in relation, at least, if not in like specific, but how many steps up or down is Practical Magic? You
know what it is, right? It's that just like how you have 2001 is in a separate category to other films, your favourite film.
Yeah.
For me, these sorts of movies like Practical Magic and Bridget Jones, basically films that are considered like chick films and a bit shit, but in general, like they're not given they're not taken very seriously in a way.
Yeah.
They occupy a different space in my film brain, I guess, because they're the films that I just always am up for watching and will always enjoy. They are my superhero films for those who find those an easy watch.
Yeah, they're like my Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. I'll slip on. They're just an easy watch. I enjoy watching them. They hit all the bits of my brain that I enjoy. And I know it's not going to disappoint. It always delivers, I guess. So it's similar?
Absolutely. And so Bridget Jones is number 1 because also it's got a very special place in my heart because it's a film that my best friend Amy and I quote we watched it together for the first time last year, like having both watched it a million times separately, and we're always quoting bits to each other from it. And we realized that basically every line of the film is a quote that we say to each other at least once a week, probably. Like,
I didn't realize. I got the impression that this was a favorite film of yours. I had no idea how deep it went.
I know. I was thinking. I bet you don't even know because I don't think I've ever taught you. I try and talk to you about French New Wave and not pretentious, but
Ooh, what a giveaway!
No.
No, I know.
But you know what I mean? I try and impress you,
I know exactly what you
James,
mean.
with my cinematic taste, and really underneath, just scratch the surface a little way. And you'll
out
find
come a bunch of romantic comedies.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Can I tell you my history with Bridget Jones when I first watched it?
Well, yeah, because that was my first question is, did you see it when it came out in 2001, or was it did you see it on DVD later?
So in 2001, I was 9, so too young to see it in the cinema. But my mum saw it with friends and loved it, I believe, and maybe my dad as well, I don't know, but we had it on tape. And so from, I'm not quite sure exactly what age, possibly 9, maybe slightly older, whenever I was ill and having a day off school, I would watch 3 films. I would watch Bridget Jones' Diary, Notting Hill, and Pretty Woman. They were all 15, so I wasn't allowed to watch them. And I would be lying on the sofa watching them with with remote controls in both hands, one for the video recorder, one for the TV, because every so often my dad worked from home and his study was upstairs, and every so often he'd come down and check on me. So I would hear his footsteps on the stairs, and I'd quickly pause Bridget Jones and then change the channel onto like the news or something, and lie there still. And he would come in and be like, "Hello, darling, how are you feeling?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm okay." Yeah, and he goes, "Oh, okay, bye," and go back upstairs. And I'd wait to hear the footsteps, and then I'd quickly change it back. So there's also this like. It makes me think of my dad, and also makes me feel anxious when I think about this film.
In case your dad busted you being corrupted by the influence of Bridget Jones's Diary.
And he's such a sweet man, that's the thing. He wouldn't even, I don't think anything would have even happened. He'd have just been like, "Oh, I don't know if you should be watching that." And that would be it. But can I ask the same thing to you? Because I believe you haven't seen it before, right?
No, I'd never seen it. I mean, I think I mentioned in passing that I initially mistook Bridget Jones's Diary for the Prozac Diaries or Prozac Nation somehow. And then when I discovered it was actually not at all about somebody with a drug addiction, I thought Bridget Jones's Diary was going to be some fucked up, like, dark, nasty 90s trip-hop soundtrack. And then I was like, oh, this doesn't seem like my kind of film, I don't think.
Oh my God, James, I find that extraordinary because Bridget Jones, obviously, most of our listeners probably know that Bridget Jones' Diary is based on the book of the same name, written by Helen Fielding, which started life as a column in The Independent.
Ah, didn't realize that.
This is what I find amazing. You were you weren't the target audience gender-wise, but you were like the age of someone perhaps who would be aware of this, because this was like a huge cultural phenomenon. Women were obsessed with this. So I assumed it must have been a choice, like, oh no, that's not my kind of thing, that's for women. But you just didn't even know what it was.
No, just to clarify, I spent maybe a year or 2 under the misapprehension that it was this. It was Prozac Nation was Bridget Jones's Diary. They kind of got meshed in my head.
Right,
so,
but the novel or the film?
The novel, sorry.
Oh, okay,
the
fine.
novel.
The novel, yeah.
And so then I think when it was made into a film, I was seeing images of Renee Zellweger looking like Bridget Jones does in the film. I was like, this doesn't track with in my head. So then I realized, oh, it's a book and it's kind of like a rom-com thing. So then I clicked and thought, okay, it just never really quite clicked to me. I've seen 4 Weddings and a Few. By the way, interesting trilogy films you used to watch for comfort watchers. I'm curious as to what order you watch them in, because the satisfying order for me would be Pretty Woman, Notting Hill, and then into Bridget Jones, just because then you've got Julia Roberts, then you've got Julia Roberts, Hugh Grant, and then Hugh Grant into, it feels like
Hell yeah, babe, you and I, we're one mind. That is absolutely what I did. And that was also, that just works with the tonally. I think it works to go that way.
Does it take you on a journey? Is like a narrative arc?
Yeah.
Good sequencing.
Yeah, I don't know why. It just feels like the correct order to do things, I think, because of that tracking. I love the idea of you seeing Renee Zellweger in those trailers for the movie, being like, she doesn't seem like a drug addict, but I could be right.
It was along those lines.
It's a comedy addiction film that seems to have romance in it too. Brilliant.
But yeah, he definitely didn't seem like I was the demographic, and this was like 2001, so I was at film. Oh my God, I was at film school at the time. So,
so it makes sense.
We went to see Christopher Nolan's Memento when it was on release in 2001. We did see Lord of the Rings, and I think that the least film school film we saw was the first couple of Harry Potter films we saw as a group as well. But
that's what I was
Bridget
thinking
Jones.
when I was contemplating my relationship to Bridget Jones and thinking about the fact that when you were like watching Jean-Luc Godard at film school and like, you know, really getting into the highest of high cinema, I was secretly watching Bridget Jones.
Covertly watching.
I'm feeling so seen as a 10-year-old.
In case, and worried that your dad had busted you for the corrupting influence of Bridget Jones wanting to get a man for the new year.
Exactly.
You can't have your head being infected with that nonsense, Lily.
Okay, so Bridget Jones. It was directed by Sharon Maguire, and it was a collab. We both know this, James, right? It was written by Helen Fielding, Richard Curtis, and Andrew Davies. We had this very funny moment of talking about Bridget Jones in a previous episode where I was like, it was written by Helen Fielding. And James Googled it and was like, no, it's not. It's written by Richard Curtis. And I literally went berserk. I was like, how? I was like, don't you tell. I know Bridget Jones. I know it. I was like, they wrote it together. Because actually the goss is, I believe, Helen Fielding and Richard Curtis went to Oxford together and they actually dated at Oxford. They were kind of a power couple of that group. In fact, that included Rowan Atkinson as well. They all met there. That's how Richard Curtis and him started working together on Blackadder. So the interesting thing, there's lots of weird connective stuff with Bridget Jones and Pride and Prejudice. So Helen Fielding basically based the romantic plot of Bridget Jones on Pride and Prejudice. And when she was writing the book, Cleaver, the character of Cleaver, who's played by Hugh Grant, was slightly influenced by Hugh Grant because Helen Fielding is friends with Hugh Grant and he would say things like, you dirty bitch. And she put that in the book. So it was kind of, he inspired her and then went on to like play the role. And then at the same time, while she was writing the novel, that was when there was all that fuss around Pride and Prejudice, the 1995 BBC adaptation. Yep. And so again, when she was writing Darcy, it was very much influenced by Colin Firth playing Darcy.
Now, I haven't read the book, but in the book, is the Darcy character described as looking like Colin Firth, or have I just misremembered that or picked something up? Or
okay, I have to confess something. I have not actually read the book. I've only seen the film, but I have actually asked for it for Christmas this year because I was thinking, what's wrong with me? I need to have the full picture. And I was reading recently Monica Heisey's new book, really, really good actually. I'm just like looked over there at my bedside table being like, did I get the name right? Yeah, really good actually. And it's clearly a child of Bridget Jones. It's so good. Brilliant book. So I was like, oh my God, I need to get the literature. I need to have the source material. But I don't know. But I imagine so. She definitely said he was influenced by him. It's
just something I read in passing years ago that the character in the book is described as looking like Colin Firth. So it's a meta kind of joke that Colin Firth got cast or a bit. But maybe I'm making that all up.
Yeah. No, it's very true. And the additional link is that so when she came to write the screenplay, she asked Andrew Davies to help with it, who wrote the screenplay for the 1995 Pride and Prejudice.
Ah, right. That's the one person I didn't really know much about, and I wonder. I wonder how much of the three of them wrote, because I was watching the film, and there were occasional passages where I just felt like, especially there's a few moments where Bridget Jones has a little, I don't know, about a soliloquy, a little monologue, and I just thought, that feels like it could be Richard Curtis, and then there's other bits which don't feel like. There's elements. This feels like a Richard Curtis film with a female lead, as opposed to Four Weddings where you got Hugh Grant at the centre of it. It has a feeling of a slightly more feminized Richard Curtis movie, but I don't know how much he was involved. Did he do like a script doctoring pass at the end because he was mates with Helen Fielding, or was he more involved with it?
I'd imagine he'd be more involved than just doctoring, because this was her first screenplay she ever wrote. I'm not sure if she's written any others apart from Bridget Jones. And obviously he'd written quite a few by this point and was quite well established doing that. But I don't know. That's all speculation on my part. But I like to think they were very much doing it together. Because you're right. I think what makes this film so good is that it's very much got that Richard Curtis characterization and sense of humor. But the thing I feel like is often missing from Richard Curtis films is that strong, well-written women character. And that's that. I mean, there are lots of interesting side characters, but often the sort of love interest is a bit like less well drawn. And in this, I mean, Bridget Jones is just such a perfectly formed character, such a she's so infinitely believable that, yeah.
Because I went in with a bunch of preconceptions of what we were going to see, and that's one thing that was a nice surprise, that she was a well-rounded character. I thought she could have easily fallen into caricature, and there's like a bit of caricature, but it's a romantic comedy, so that's everybody's a little bit caricatured. It's a little bit of a fantasy, but I like that she's not. It would have been easier, I felt, to have made her a little bit of a weaker, slightly less confident character. So it was nice that she did have confidence. It was more that she was just a little socially awkward than she had a lack of confidence. An excellent Every Woman performance by superstar Renee Zellweger.
And if you look at the deleted scenes that are on the DVD extras, but you can also find them on YouTube, guys. I'll add a link. In some of those deleted scenes, it is a bit more caricature, or it's a bit, some of the gags about her thinking about her weight and so on, like they go a bit almost too far, and I feel like, and apparently in the initial edit of the film, it was a bit of a mess and really wasn't working at all, and they basically did lots of work to restructure it, which I find amazing because it zips along and it fits together all so perfectly, and there's no flab at all. But I think that was a big part of it, was like making sure that they dialed that back, so it was funny enough and big enough, but not so much that it moves, like dips into
too far caricature.
Yeah.
You kind of had a peek behind the curtain with the DVD extras that we've discussed in our episode about women editors in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Is that there's two kinds of editing. There's like shot to shot, like when do you cut to somebody's reaction, when you cut to close-ups. But then there's also the structural editing, which is the thing that you see the least, or that when it's done well, like, I wouldn't have noticed that there were any big structural changes, but that kind of push and pull, I mean, even in my limited experience of directing dramas, and editing them, those conversations were happening all the time. How much is too much? How far do we push the fantasy element until it pulls you out of it? You have these conversations about the world of the film. So does this scene fit in the world of the film? And you start realizing, and especially for me as well, the hard thing was some of these scenes that I actually completely removed from my work were the motivating scenes that made me write the script. To me, these were the key scenes. And then in the process of editing, you're like, well, actually, in the world of the film that we've created, they're too much, or they're just not quite fitting right. So the exact same process happened there. And I would certainly have not got the impression there was any major structural changes, but that's the editing process.
Yeah, you got to kill your darlings.
Damn right, you're damn right. And it hurts. Yes, you spend 2 weeks not killing your darlings, then you're like, oh my God, this is time. It's slaughter time. Sorry.
I love that. Yeah. But let's talk about Renee Zellweger, because I honestly think she's amazing. And I think it was really this time of watching it with a critical eye, thinking about this podcast, that I really appreciated her talent. But what were tell me what your thoughts on her are.
I can't name the Renee Zellweger films that I've seen. I'm damn sure I have, but none come to mind. But
Chicago.
Haven't seen.
She was in Chicago. That's all I can think of her being in.
The point is, I wasn't overly familiar with her work as an actor, and I was really impressed. I thought it was really well done. I remember reading at the time that she'd spent like a couple of weeks as research working in an office
at Picador Publishing House. She was a trainee publicist, so doing basically the same job she does in the film.
She nails it. She's got this every person kind of charm. She's very relatable. It's never a caricature. It's just right. Pitch perfect.
And that accent, I mean, she's from Texas. It's amazing, because I really do believe for the most part, Americans cannot do British accents. It always sounds really put on and over the top.
It's good.
And there are a few moments where it seems it goes a bit too plummy, but it just works with who she is.
Out of all these kind of films that we watched so far on the podcast, I was thinking, is this the Citizen Kane of this kind of noughties romantic comedy? It all comes together very nicely.
Definitely, James. I'm so glad you think that, though. I was worried. I wanted to ask you about your thoughts, sort of from a cinema point of view, like from a director, like all that stuff. I'm like,
from
you know what I mean.
From an all that stuff point of view, I really liked it. I thought, especially the production design and the costumes, both of those were exceptional. The cinematography and the sets, like, it made me realize how much we don't make these kind of films anymore, which was it clearly had a decent budget, because for what is essentially a drama set in the contemporary real world, they've built lots of sets. The sets have lots of space in them. They're built on multiple planes of action. So you have a foreground, in The Officers, for example, you have foreground, and then you'll have midground where the action's taking place, the dialogue. Then there's a far background, and then there's stuff outside the window. So you've got multiplanar action, and most scenes are in a set of that kind of size. Even, and I mean, if we're going to go for reality, then Bridget Jones's flat is like the most luxurious, spacious-looking flat, but it looks amazing. And in the fantasy of the world, that's the kind of flat we would fantasize about having if we were working in London.
Definitely.
So it works in the fantasy. For me, it's got this, we call it high-key lighting. So everybody's faces are very glamorous. They're also quite soft-lit. It's an excellent version of high-key lighting with big sets. My preference is for slightly more contrasty, low-key lighting. For these kind of romantic comedies, you want everyone looking beautiful. But yeah, all flawlessly executed. Great direction. I think they make use of the cinematic space. The story rattles along. It's a very well-made version of this kind of story.
I think you're right. I think it is definitely the Citizen Kane. And that makes me so happy. I'm glad you appreciate it from a visual point of view.
Oh, from a director, how it's put together. Yeah, aesthetic, absolutely very impressive. But it does make me sad that you realise these kind of films just aren't made anymore. You wouldn't spend that much money making, because it's contemporary set nowadays, you'd probably film in an office, you'd probably film in a real flat that you'd adapt and you'd change. Because they built everything, even the interior houses are built sets. Everything's perfect. Everything's nicely put together. There's enough space to light everything, to put the cameras in the best places. And that helps make a film feel like cinema. And nowadays, that kind of romantic comedy set in the real world, you just wouldn't have that amount of money put behind it.
Yeah, it's very true. I think it's very interesting that this film came out in 2001, April 2001. And it really does feel like one of the last hurrahs before the Western world changed, before 9/11, and film took a distinct turn. And there were rom-coms that came out in the years after that, but I feel like it really does capture a moment in London and UK. It's very Blairite in its vibes, like nothing to worry about. I have this amazing flat in Borough. I can like fall out of a black cab drunk every night. I mean, imagine taking a black cab on a weeknight. It's just it's such a, and even like with her friend, like setting up, he's putting a phone cover on a new phone, and the box is on their bar. They're at a bar, and he's got all the kit up. I love these little details that really make it specific to that time. That when there was so much joy and for women, I think it was a very important time. But we'll get into that. What were you going to say?
No, yeah, I was also saying there's a bunch of things I noticed from watching it. I mean, well, one, excellent use of needle drops, music throughout.
Fabulous soundtrack. I also have this on CD. I've listened many times.
It's completely on the nose. Like every music choice is the most literal evocation of what's happening on screen. However, they are all bangers. Can't deny it. That like when they kick in, you're like, oh, that's the perfect song for that moment. And also, because it's 2001, you've got some original UK garage bangers popping in now and again, which I wasn't expecting that. That was quite a, you've got some like 60s classics, Ain't No Mountain High Enough and all that kind of stuff. But then you've got some, some well chosen, they've aged quite well UK garage bangers. So yeah.
Unless we forget Jerry Halliwell's rendition of It's Raining Men.
Is it Jerry's version?
Jerry's version, her fourth number one. I think she has a lot to thank Bridget Jones for. That song kept her current.
Blimey.
Okay, I think we should talk about the men in the film because, yes, it's a rom-com. It's a who's she going to pick kind of situation. First with Hugh Grant. And I love Hugh Grant in this role because it's quite clear if you just like hear a snippet of interview with him about this film that this is the character of Cleaver is the closest to his real personality of any part he's ever played. And having spent many years playing these like very foppish, nice boys, I think he was very pleased to get to play himself an arsehole.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great performance because, I know him more from Four Weddings and a Funeral. However, I do love him in Cloud Atlas, which is a completely underrated gem, and I think maybe that's one for the pod for us to discuss. In that, he plays 7 different arseholes. It's set in multiple
arseholes. No.
Well, as in dickhead characters. Riffs on the unpleasant character, set in different multiple realities in different time periods, and the one consistent thing in all of these different stories is Hugh Grant pops up in some form of a toxic male, and it's great. In fact, in one of them, he's even a flesh-eating cannibal. Cloud Atlas is so good. So yeah, I figured when I watched Bridget Jones' Diaries that there must have been nobody else they had in mind for that role, because I can't imagine anyone else. He's got the kind of sleazy, but he's also very likable. He's able to just make it charming, but kind of...
And sexy as hell. I think him and Renee Zellweger have amazing chemistry. That's the Big Knicker scene, honestly. I think it's like an incredibly sexy scene, even up to and even including them laughing about her big knickers. Like, I love it. I think it's perfect casting. And then on top of that, we've got Colin Firth. I think I love them two being...
Yeah, they're good, great love rivals.
Thank you. Yes,
the fight rivals. Sequence, it works really well, especially because they're two really good actors going at it. So it's not just like a fight sequence, it's funny and they sell it really well.
Apparently in the original draft of the script, the plan was it was meant to be sexy, like a sexy fight. Like they would rip their shirts or whatever and then they'd all be like, woo, amazing. Right. And Colin Firth was like, I don't think that's realistic. And it was Hugh Grant's idea that they should fight really badly and just like awkwardly, just how they genuinely would fight. Get rid of the choreographer and just go for this awkward thing. It's so good.
That really makes it.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I think that is what makes the film so rich and so good, is that all the characters around Bridget are so well drawn. I feel like I use that phrase all the time, but it's definitely true for this one. I mean, one of her friends, Shazza, is actually based on the director, on Sharon Maguire. She's a friend.
Is that Sally Phillips?
Yes, Sally Phillips' character. Yeah, she's
always good to see Sally Phillips in something. I always think she's great.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And yeah, so the director is actually also a friend of Helen Fielding's. Again, more interconnected, and she's the one who's always swearing.
And watching this made me realise that the joke, kind of the self-referential joke in the casting of, I've forgotten the actor's name, but the woman who plays one of her friends who's also in the Harry Potter films as Moaning Myrtle. And so the first time we see her in Bridget Jones, she's in tears in a bathroom.
In the bathroom.
And of course in Harry Potter, I was like, oh no, in Harry Potter, there's a deliberate reason why they cast her, and she's right, got it now.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Do you think that was the deliberate reason to make that joke for the mums in the audience, the millennials in the audience?
Oh, right, yeah. Which way around was it? Which came first? Or maybe it was just pure coincidence, because Bridget Jones came out in 2001, and didn't the first Harry Potter film, or the second one, because Moaning Myrtle's in number 2, didn't they come out around the same time? So. Oh,
yeah. Oh, I don't know.
It could be just one of those weird coincidences, but I thought it would be Bridget Jones's first, and then Harry Potter.
No, that's what I thought too, but I did genuinely wonder if, I mean, because she's very good as Moaning Myrtle. But I know when you first hear that voice and see her in the toilet, I'm like, am I in the right film?
And also the creepy non-uncle who keeps groping Bridget Jones's bottom.
Yeah, James Faulkner, Uncle Jeffrey.
He pops up as a villain in Doctor Who, wearing the same moustache. Clearly, Russell T Davies was trying to invoke the memory of that character, because obviously he plays a villain in Doctor Who. So,
right. Yeah.
I didn't realise the connection there.
I mean, such a good cast. Celia Imrie playing Una, her mum's best friend, and Jim Broadbent and Gemma Jones playing Bridget's parents. That's what I love, is the it's first of all her relationship with her dad. That feels that them being really close, that they're easy kind of camaraderie when they're at these like family, like friend events. And also just the fact that there are there are 3 different scenes of them being at parties with friends of her parents, and that kind of extended world of like your mum's friends when you're a grown up, like that all
fake
feels,
aunties and fake uncles.
That all feels so a truism of Britain. The way that's put together, those people all feel very real and just so funny. And I don't know, it's just so well observed, I think.
And I think that's probably why I stayed away from it, because I wouldn't have been able to verbalize it until maybe the past few years, but I think it's because it represents the majority of how society sees how the world works. The idea is you want to find a partner, and you want to. This is how it works, and these are how your friends are. You don't have any, for example, I saw there was no platonic male friends of Bridget Jones. It's essaying in a world that I always felt I didn't quite fit in, or I always felt a bit of an outsider to. So I suppose I could enjoy it, and I love it as a film, but I don't think it's an aspirational world that I feel like I'd want to fit into. It's, come on, Bridget, you can have both. Date both of them, man.
No, Daniel Cleaver is such an arsehole. She doesn't want him. But I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But I think, but see, so it's the 20-year anniversary of this film coming out. So in fact, I'm going to go see it at the cinema next week with the previously mentioned Amy.
Oh, really? Oh, how great.
I know, I've never seen it in the cinema. So
are you going in London or going
in
near
London,
home?
Yeah.
Prince Charles?
At Curzon. My favourite.
Fancy.
Curzon. Yeah, I know.
Fancy.
Yeah, I think it's at the Mayfair one. It's going to be super fancy, the OG. Anyway, so yeah, actually, if anyone... They're screening it on the 30th and the 1st. If anyone wants to come along, I'll see you there. So because of this anniversary, and it's also 25 years since the book came out, so it's like a double anniversary for this story. And there was a New York Times piece about Bridget Jones, basically saying like why she's not relevant to Gen Xers and how like we deserve better than Bridget Jones. It was quite a searing piece. It called it dated, which obviously it is. It's from 20 years ago, but also anti-feminist, which I was like quite incensed by. She talks about how women today know that being neurotic isn't cute. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't think Bridget Jones thinks she's being adorable when she's being neurotic. She is just responding to the world that she is living in. And I think the thing about this film is that, and I'm sure the book, is that in a very funny, fun, frothy way, it's actually reflecting some quite unpleasant aspects of being a woman in that time. Like the fact that her relationship with Daniel Cleaver, he's her boss, it starts with workplace harassment, sexual harassment.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned the Uncle Jeffrey, and how every time he sees her, he tries to pinch her bum. In every space, she endures some kind of like almost everyday harassment. And I think the way showing that and showing how it's actually, for most women, these sorts of things you just had to get on with. I think it was actually really important for that to be shown in a film at that time, because it's thanks to those sorts of things actually being like shown that it began us moving to a place which we haven't even arrived at the destination yet. We're still getting there, but
still getting there.
It's contributed to us being able to call these things out of work and assert a boundary. But you need to get to that point first by showing it.
You feel that this was the start of the journey, or somewhere on the journey?
Yeah, absolutely. And so much has been made of it's so terrible that Bridget Jones talks all the time about like wanting to diet and needing to lose weight. And yeah, like the numbers are shocking. Like she's like 10 stone. she
looks fine. She doesn't need to lose nothing.
Well, yeah, she's the same weight as me. I'm nearly the same age as her at this point. She has.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Amy actually sent me a meme the other day where it was like Bridget Jones is like 10 stone, has her own flat in Borough, and is a single 30-year-old, and has a job in publishing, and apparently she's like a failure. Like it is ridiculous, but what this film isn't saying is those are objectively things to feel bad about, but it's saying that in this world, women are made to feel bad about that stuff, and so they do. It's just reflecting back how women actually felt, which hadn't really ever been voiced before in such a frank but also funny way. I think that was like an amazing thing to like have that reflected back to women. So okay. It really annoys me to look back on that and be like, oh, like this is Bridget Jones. She's so neurotic. She's so like, why does she care about dieting? It was like, that was fucking normal to care about dieting. And also, It's not like we're any less neurotic now. We're just neurotic in different ways.
Every film that's contemporary set is always going to be like a time capsule of either the attitudes that were real at the time or the attitudes as perceived by the filmmakers. And here we have a female writer, female director. So they're reflecting how they see the world around them, which is kind of a bit of a shift from maybe if the film had been made 10 years earlier, probably being a male director or a male writer. I mean, apart from maybe Nora Ephron is the only person I can think of who was writing these kind of things.
Which was definitely, I feel like that is the lineage. It's like Nora Ephron, Helen Fielding, and now today with these sorts of books like Monica Heisey's book I mentioned before, you can really see the kind of the evolution of women's writing, writing about at least a certain kind of woman, I guess.
Talking about evolution, I was watching this film thinking, is Bridget Jones the noughties remake of It Girl? I was thinking, does it fit? kind of
No.
not, So
this is the every woman. This is definitely not the It Girl.
But the It Girl, remember, was a shop worker. The It Girl wasn't a celebrity. She wasn't anyone clever. She had a lot of confidence and she had riz, as you would call it. But I found, because I was going into Bridget Jones as thinking that Bridget Jones perhaps wouldn't have charisma, but she does. It's just, it's evolved and changed. It's not as on the nose. She's the It Girl, but with insecurities. That's how I saw it. And she is aspirational in her love interest. I mean, is it Colin Firth, is he a lawyer? Am I right in thinking?
Yes.
So,
human rights lawyer.
He doesn't, yeah, human rights lawyer. So it's evolved from he owns the shop that she works in. It's now he's a human rights lawyer. It's an aspirational partner that perhaps is slightly out of her reach, you might say, society would say, which in the It Girl, the shop worker and the boss getting together. I don't know. I certainly felt that the lineage was there, even if I'm trying to struggle a little bit to make it fit.
Yeah, sorry, I guess so. I was thinking more about the It Girl as a concept. How
the film. Come on, Lily. The film.
From the film. Okay.
Literally from the film. Yeah. Like the office worker. Is that the modern? Is that like the slightly middle class riff on the shop worker?
Yeah, I guess so. But the thing is, in It Girl, there seems to be a big class divide, right? And she, she has all this charisma, so she's able to hop basically to kind of like rungs, I guess, if you want to break it down that way. Whereas I think with Bridget Jones, I think the class element of it is very much echoing Pride and Prejudice. As we said, it's influenced by that book. Both Hugh Grant and Colin Firth's characters, both Daniel Cleaver and Mark Darcy, they went to Oxford together, I think, or Cambridge together. And you see the family home of Mark Darcy. So you see that he comes from clearly a lot of money and is very much like kind of an upper class world. But it seems to me like Bridget Jones, I did think about it because, she is, I guess, like a bit more aspirational than on the same level as them. But it seems like in that world that they are moving in, it's definitely not made a point that she's moving up. I don't think. It feels to me like that is never an issue, that she could have those guys from that point of view if she wanted to. I think she does very much fit into this world, in my opinion. These are all Mark Darcy's parents are friends with her parents. They're all
yeah.
Her parents live in a big house in the Cotswolds, and to be honest, that to me is just really what that is just the Pride and Prejudice of it. Because in Pride and Prejudice, Bingley is from like the highest like elite, but yet still he's very interested in Jane Bennet and it's not really a deep consideration. Like they all end up with someone in the end because they're slightly like, I guess, lower down the pecking order, but not so much that it's a big problem. Okay. It's fairly negligible. Whereas in It Girl, it's definitely, she needs to win him over and like get over this hurdle of being from a different world from them completely.
Right.
Whereas Bridget Jones, it definitely occupies this world in which everyone is kind of on this, they may be financially a bit, there might be some variation, but they're basically in the same privileged world, which it's definitely perhaps a criticism of the film. I mean, it's definitely a fantasy bubble of posh London, I guess, and the surrounding.
Posh white London.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. Very posh, very white. I feel like that's not the central point of it. It's more, for me, it's more about a woman trying to like figure out what really will make her happy.
A man.
Definitely a man. But I think
you don't need a goddamn man, Bridget. You're fine.
Yeah, but
you don't need a kid. Stop putting pressure on her, society. Back off.
But the thing is, those are the things she wants. But for better or worse, most of us do want those things. So I think the idea that it's anti-feminist to show a woman who cares about her weight, does drink too much and regrets it, does want to be in a relationship, and often in quite dysfunctional ways. Like, she definitely obviously sees aspiration in Daniel Cleaver. It's quite weird to me they've only been dating like a few days, it seems, and she's already asking him if he loves her and thinks he's her boyfriend. Like, she's a slightly
I have to admit that came out of slightly nowhere. I was thinking that doesn't feel quite. I don't know. It feels a bit soon for Bridget from the Bridget we've seen in the film. But it's a drama. You got to do these things.
Yeah, I know. You're right. For me as well, because I don't remember thinking that. I don't think I'd ever really clocked quite how quick she was. Because to me, it was not nice that. It definitely wasn't nice that he lied to her and then had another woman at home. But I don't think they were exclusive at that point. I don't actually think it's that terrible. I would be upset too, but I don't really think you have a right to I don't know. The lying is not cool.
They were definitely in the area of what I call the fog of monogamy. Those early few weeks of monogamous dating where
fogomony.
The fogonomy,
yeah.
We're on the mulled wine already. Those early precious few weeks of monogamous dating where you haven't had the conversation, so technically you could be seeing other people, and it's kind of fine, but let's not say anything.
But what I love about Bridget, so most women, right, in this situation would be thinking, what are we? Are we headed somewhere? Are we serious? What's going on? She doesn't have that conversation. She's just like, no, he's my boyfriend. She's telling her dad, I've got a boyfriend. Asking him if he loves her. Are you kidding me? You've slept together twice. What's going on? So she does have a slightly childlike, I guess, attitude to relationships.
She's been conditioned by too many rom-coms. That's what Bridget Jones. She's grown up watching too many.
Yes, but that's the thing. That's what I love about this film is that is how most women are. Yeah. We have to kind of uncondition ourselves from that stuff. And maybe, hopefully not, it's probably getting better, but at least I certainly felt like I had to. So I think it's not saying this is great. I think the comedy comes to the fact that we know it's kind of mad, really.
Yeah, it's an imperfect system, but it's basically the system that everyone's got.
Yes. Yeah. And we're all laughing at it, so it feels good. The other thing I really need to draw our attention to is the Salman Rushdie cameo at the book launch.
Yeah.
So watching it this time, I think Salman Rushdie is actually her guardian angel, low-key, because when she arrives and finds her way to his little circle and he's talking, he turns to her and says, "What do you think?" And I think, how nice that this man is genuinely interested in what this woman has to say. What a rare treat. Love that. It's unfortunate she didn't have any things to say, so just asked where the toilets were, but I love that he gave her the chance. And then later on, when she's feeling bummed out about how embarrassing her speech went, Mark Darcy turns around to look at her, and you can just hear in the background that Natasha, Mark's female squeeze, who's really rude to Bridget, says to Sam Rushdie, "So how autobiographical is your work?" And you can just very vaguely hear him say, "You know what? No one has ever asked me that." And I think, yes, Salmon, shoot her down. We hate this woman. She's making Bridget feel bad. Okay, do we have anything more to say on Bridget Jones? I feel like I barely even scratched the surface, but I just want to encourage people to watch this film, because the thing that is very pleasing to watch about it is that it has such that feeling of the kind of end of that Christmas, New Year lull, where you've overdone it, just like we were talking about at the start of the episode. You've overdone it. You're feeling a little bit bad about how much you've indulged, but you're also feeling the sense of okay, it's a new year. I'm going to make this year a really good one. What are my New Year's resolutions? You have all this intention, and then as things go on, starts off strong and then immediately fails, and then has an additional burst of energy and achieves something, and then we all revert back to our same selves, and we're back to square one, just like in the movie.
Oh yeah, and I love it. And she's eating and she's drinking, and they last minutes, her resolutions. But that's I think everybody, isn't it? I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the perfect film for the end of the year.
And do we not talk about the sequels? Or
we don't talk about the sequels. So
right.
The second one is terrible. I
noticed that it wasn't the same director, but she comes back for the third one.
And the third one is, people generally agree, pretty good. I didn't love it. It's definitely a lot better than the second. But in my mind, I guess the first is perfect. Let's just leave it there.
It's one of those things where having seen the two sequels, essentially to get the sequels to work, you have to upset the equilibrium where you had the ending of the first film that was picture perfect, And then you've got to manufacture something going wrong with that to get all the same cast back to give you that same kind of feeling of Bridget Jones, I guess.
Exactly.
And it's diminishing returns, like with a lot of films, like with the Matrix sequels. God damn it. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. You know what? But you're right. It is a perfect ending because I love that bit where Mark Darcy just wraps his coat around her while they're snogging. It looks so cozy in there. I'm like, oh, I want to be there.
Well, excellent. Well, potentially we've part one of how many three-part series of Bridget Jones discussions, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Can I just thank you, James? Because I feel like I think this series in particular, you've really allowed me to like lean into the things that I'm quite passionate about film-wise.
That's what I'm here for.
Which is definitely exposing myself to be quite sort of lowbrow. But thank you for indulging me.
While I'm a Nolan film bro, it seems.
We're actually so heteronormative, it's embarrassing. But
hilarious, isn't it? But also it means that when I play the "Let's go watch Tenet" card, I've earned my dues. I've got my little pass that I've got my stamps on. Come on, Lily.
It's so true. I do feel quite indebted. Yeah. So watch the space, guys, for next season. Okay, so we were thinking to finish up the series, finish up the episode, because we're going to be taking a bit of a break. TBC on how long exactly that break will be. I mean, not crazy long, guys, don't worry. We'll be back in your ears before, but like definitely in March at some point. Just figuring that out. But and there's a bit of a gap between then and now. And also the new year is like the best time to see films because it's when all the awards contenders are released.
So we figured we'd give you some hints and tips of things to look out for to keep you ticking over until we're back in the saddle.
Exactly. So, James, would you like to kick us off? What are you excited about in January?
12th of January, I've got Poor Things, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos and shot by Robbie Ryan, starring Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe. And it seems to be like a modern steampunk riff on the Frankenstein story. So I've seen Lobster, which I thought was good. I haven't seen the subsequent couple of films that he's done, but I think I'm definitely going to see this at the cinema. It looks interesting.
The Favourite was amazing, also with Emma Stone. So good.
Also shot by Robbie Ryan,
And I think it looks amazing. I can't wait for Poor Things. It's going to be good.
As I was researching, this is just something that caught my eye, which is interesting, which is The Book of Clarence, coming out 19th January, which
I've not heard of that.
It's a comedy. It's set in 29 AD, and it's about a guy who decides to cash in on the idea that this Jesus Christ character is a Messiah. So he sets himself up in biblical era Jerusalem as another Messiah, Clarence. And it's a majority black cast. We've got David Oyelowo in it. We've got Marianne Jean-Baptiste. We've also got James McAvoy playing Pontius Pilate and Benedict Cumberbatch. It doesn't tell you what his character is. Possibly he's going to play God. I don't know. But it looks really interesting. The cinematographer is Rob Hardy. Very good cinematographer, did the Mission Impossible film. So it looks quite good. And the trailer looked okay. But I don't know much about it. Life of Brian.
Thank you. I was like, which name is it? Someone's life. Some man's life.
Someone's life. But certainly it's certainly just the cast and the cinematographer. It looks like it's something of quality. So interesting.
Oh yeah.
What about yourself? What about your January picks?
I have many things I'm excited about for in January, so I'll rattle through them as quickly as I can.
Sorry. December 26th, which is not quite January, Ferrari, the new Michael Mann. Got to see a Michael Mann film at the cinema. Now getting into him.
Yeah. I'm super excited to see that. Can't wait to see that. In fact, there are a few films. I haven't seen Maestro yet, Bradley Cooper's film, which he's not my favourite man in the world, or actor in the world, I should say. But Carey Mulligan's performance is apparently incredible, so I definitely want to see that. And also, Priscilla comes out on the 1st of January, which I think I've mentioned before, Sofia Coppola's new movie about Priscilla Presley. Cannot wait to see that.
That was good.
And Jacob Elordi playing Elvis, excited for that. Though apparently he's not as sexy as in Saltburn, which is unfortunate. But hey, can't have it all. So besides those, I am really excited to see One Life. That comes out on the 5th of January. That is the biopic about Nicholas Winton, who was the man who organised the Kinder transport. He rescued 669 children from the Nazis in Czechoslovakia. And I have to say that I saw the trailer. I've seen it twice and I've cried both times. I don't know if that's just me emotional, but I mean, God, that story is just gets me every time. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Though I do think that it's directed by James Hawes, who's a TV director, and I do think these sorts of films, these kind of Oscar-worthy British films are often a bit televisual. So I'm not sure if it's going to be like the most amazing viewing experience, but that story, I can't wait to see it.
Well, I would like to say James Hawes, I know his work from when he was a director on Doctor Who. He was one of the more clearly cinematic directors of the TV series. I'm sure it will translate to his film work. So, yeah, I'd be intrigued to see what it's like.
Okay, cool. Okay, fine. Sorry. I take that back, James Hawes. I bet it's going to be amazing. You've already made me cry, so I'm sure it's going to be great. And I think I did mention this before, but I want to say again, Ava DuVernay's new film, Origin. It's a movie based on this non-fiction book called Cast: The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkinson. And I thought that it was going to be a kind of a non-fiction, because this book is a non-fiction book, so I thought it was going to be a similar kind of documentary thing, maybe akin to 13th, her other documentary. But actually, it's a biographical drama, and apparently the story is of Isabel Wilkerson as her experience of writing the novel. So kind of meta. So I'm excited about that, especially because I saw the trailer and that it doesn't really tell you anything. It feels powerful and moving. I felt moved watching it, but I don't know what's going on. So I'm excited about that.
Okay.
And then the other film in January I'm very excited for is All of Us Strangers. That comes out on the 26th of January. And it is a film starring Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott and Claire Foy as well. And it's directed by Andrew Hay, who made the film Weekend, if you've seen that. And it's basically a love story. Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott fall in love whilst Andrew Scott's kind of struggling with, I think he revisits home, something to do with some kind of past family trauma. There's loads of buzz around it. It's already been nominated for Oscars, for awards.
Never heard of that one. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, well, I think it looks great.
I've got one, and again, which I hadn't heard of until I was researching for this, is called American Fiction, which is coming out on February the 2nd in the UK, which is, when you look into it, it's got a lot of buzz around it. Jeffrey Wright plays an author who, his books aren't very successful. He's a black author, and he's clearly like a middle-class author, I guess like maybe a Salman Rushdie type, and his books just aren't selling. And his publisher says, we need a book from you that's really black. And so as a joke, he writes like the most ridiculous parody kind of black novel full of street slang and stuff like that. And it sells shitloads. And he then has to pretend that he's a streetwise kind of quasi-gangster-esque character with a bad life, when in fact that's far from the truth. And so just from the trailer, it looks like a good comedy that's got something to say.
Yeah.
And it's a debut film. It's a writer-director called Cord Jefferson, and it's their debut film. So I'm always intrigued to see a debut film that's got a lot of buzz about it.
Yeah. I also saw the trailer for that, and it looked genuinely really funny, which I feel like is exactly what you want, something that's like a satire that it has a very important message at the heart. Like that's that's what you need. And also, an amazing cast. Tracy Ellis Ross and Issa Rae are also in it. So looks brilliant. I can't wait for that. And then the film my site says, but it's got Mads Mikkelsen in it. So I'm really excited about that, is The Promised Land, coming out on the 16th of February. It's a Danish film. I don't know about that. It's directed by Nicolaj Arcel. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And it's a historical drama. The Variety described it as a commoner turned captain locked in a grisly land battle with a dastardly nobleman. And I've also seen it described as like a Jutland Nordic Western. I mean, I saw the trailer and it looks really beautiful, like a proper epic. I wonder if it could be perhaps a bit boring, but it's Mads Mikkelsen, the sexiest man in all Scandinavia, possibly the whole of cinema. So I can't wait for it.
I don't know how hard and fast our rule of when our cut-off point is for recommendations, because I've got a bit of a blank in February, but I pick up again in like later March.
Hit me with it. What have you got? What are we excited for in March?
Well, in March, I'm very much looking forward to Mickey 17, the latest film by Bong Joon-ho. And it's shot by my all-time, I don't know about my all-time, but one of my all-time favourite living cinematographers, Darius Khondji, the mastermind behind the visuals on Seven. It's a science fiction film starring Robert Pattinson, who plays a replicant, like a synthetic humanoid character, an expendable employee on a human expedition sent to colonize an ice world. And he dies, and he gets a new body's created with most of his memories intact. Sounds like a fascinating premise, you know.
My God.
So yeah,
that sounds
my kind of thing.
Yeah, that's like heavy on the premise.
Yeah,
I'm up for seeing it.
Oh, come on, it's the Parasite guy with Darius Conji doing the visuals.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. For that alone, I'm up for it. I'm up for it.
And we've got Stephen Yen, and we've got Toni Collette and Mark Ruffalo in the cast as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
amazing cast. Okay, cool. All right, let's see that. We'll probably be back by then, so we can maybe see it for the podcast. And I say that because it's tentative for when we're coming back, because our plan had been that we would return for June 2. That is, for both of us, our most hotly anticipated movie.
Absolutely.
And we were like devastated that it got pushed back from November because of the writers' strikes, and then got pushed back to the 15th of March. Now it's been brought forward slightly to the 1st of March. So
God damn.
It's all chaos around June 2, but that is the big film that I cannot wait to see.
Yeah, I went to see Godzilla -1 last Friday at the IMAX, which, by the way, very entertaining movie. If you're in the market for a human interest drama set in post-war Japan about a kamikaze pilot who decides to bottle it and not carry out his mission, and he's socially excluded because he's essentially seen as a coward, and about all the different stories about the characters struggling to survive in post-war Japan, and then a big monster comes and stamps through the city intermittently, then this is the film for you. I've never seen a Godzilla movie before, and I bloody loved it. It had a round of applause when the credits came on because everyone was so into the film, but they had a trailer for Dune 2, and it was the full height, like IMAX trailer, because we've got a proper IMAX at the View, and it was mind-blowing. Some of the sequences in Dune 2 look incredible, so I'm very excited.
I have to say, this Godzilla movie, I've not seen it advertised anywhere. You're the only person who's told me anything about it. I've not seen it online. I've not seen trailers. What's going on with it?
So it only has come onto my radar because some of the YouTubers that I watch, especially Corridor Crew, they've raved about it. So yeah, I haven't picked up on it through any of the usual channels.
Weird.
It's more like because I think, Lily, to be honest, they haven't spent a lot of money marketing it. The thing that blows my mind is it costs $15 million to make, and it looks like a properly big-budget Hollywood movie. So they know how to make films economically. So it doesn't need to make a lot of money to make a profit. And it's already made like 40, 50 million. So they're already banging the money.
Oh, wow.
And they haven't had to spend a lot. You haven't seen it on the side of buses because that costs money. It's like a more viral marketing campaign. So it's the first time where I've really seen a film where it was more marketed by my peers, by them all saying, this is a great film, really good. So yeah, that's how it came on my radar.
Interesting. Okay, well, yeah, I think I might give that a watch, actually. I've never seen a Godzilla movie.
Afterwards, I bumped into a friend who was with one of his mates who's a Godzilla aficionado and has seen all of them. And he said that's the best one by far. So,
okay.
So I guess if you're only ever going to watch one Japanese Godzilla film, I think this is the one.
Okay, yeah.
Out of the 37 or 33 films they've made over 70 fucking
Sorry,
years.
I didn't know that. Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, that's the one. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm going to see that. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the episode. And James, I have a surprise for you and the listeners.
Okay.
So, don't worry, it's nothing to be alarmed by. It's nice. It's a good thing. Basically,
hooray!
Seeing as I think one of the struggles of this series for us, this podcast, has been pronunciation of names. I feel like we were really trying very hard just now with all those names, and I think we just about got away with it. But with that in mind, I thought it would only be fitting to put together a little bloopers reel.
Okay. Okay.
So to finish up, to tie up the series in a nice little bow, here is a bloopers reel of Groovy movies.
Christos Nikou.
This is the podcast you come to if you want to have names of filmmakers mispronounced. With Harvey Keitel. Even? Louis
Buñuel?
I looked it up. It's a Buñuel, I think. Rob Reiner.
Rob
Reiner's like Rob Reiner.
Rob Reiner, obviously the director.
Rob Reiner.
Denise Gamze Ergven.
by Jonathan Demme.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Jacob Elordi. Who's played by Jean-Paul Belmondo. And
Trey Bond.
Taylor Swift's Eras movie. And that's another thing about the Taylor Swift's Eras films. She did the All Too Much video.
About the souffle.
Such as the Cahiers de Cinema. Thank you. Cahiers de Cinema. And
Cahiers de Cinema. Sorry to our French listeners.
We're sorry to any Turkish listeners.
So apologies to our Greek listeners.
Apologies to anyone.
Apologies, as always. Because apparently, like, Joaquin Phoenix. Oh, damn
Wacky.
it.
Just say Wacky.
Joaquin Phoenix were talking about a filmmaker and they mentioned his oeuvre. And I was like, hang on, oeuvre? What the fuck's... No, have we been saying oeuvre? Is that the wrong thing to say?
Really?
I don't know.
It's not oeuvre. It's not oeuvre.
That's what the Radio 4 man said, and it's Radio 4.
I thought you were trying to tell me that it's okay because other people get it wrong. People on Radio 4 get it wrong. Oh my God, is it oeuvre? Shit, I don't know.
I know it's Christos Nikou who directed this.
He's Greek, so don't know what that tells us.
That was hilarious. I was hoping we could kind of sweep under the carpet our goddamn awful at times pronunciation, but there it is, foreground and front and centre. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year.
Well, the thing was, I also wanted to just sweep it under the carpet, but then I listened back to our Taylor Swift episode, and not only did I misname the title of the show the whole way through, but also I called one of my favourite songs with her All Too Well. I called it All Too Much, which seemed to be some kind of subliminal message or something. So I was just so mortified. I was like, I've got to make a virtue of these horrible mistakes. Right. We've got to just own it, lean in, because James, what else can we do?
You've just got to throw us both under the bus.
I'm hoping it will endear people to us. I hope.
I mean, we'll find out soon. Wait. So how did you mispronounce Taylor Swift's Eras tour?
I just kept calling it her Eras movie, her Eras film, Taylor Swift's movie.
Right.
Like slightly, because it's...
Oh, I see.
Because it's called Taylor Swift's Eras Tour. That is not a great title for a film. Do you know what I mean? That's my excuse.
I wouldn't want to be pedantic and call you up on nonsense like that. It's just like we're just talking, we're grooving. Like, it's the film's called It, not It Girl. I'm not going to pause the podcast.
Oh my God, yeah. See? So many bloody mistakes. But yeah... Guys, I hope you enjoyed that. That was just a little treat for you and for James to atone for our sins.
That felt very festive. That must have been a lot of work, Lily. Thank you. That was lovely.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, well, guys, have a lovely New Year. Hope you enjoyed the rest of the Christmas break.
And if you can just remember in the middle of being off your box on Bailey's to just leave us a like. Little review all helps get the podcast out to a wider audience, and we love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you've enjoyed what we're doing and you want to give us a Christmas present, just like 5 stars and maybe some nice words about how much you love all our mistakes would be amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys. And yeah, we don't know when we're going to be back, but not too long. We'll be back before you know it. So just stay subscribed and we'll be back in your ears.
Yeah, keep your ears open for our return. Okay, all the best and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Bye. Follow us on Instagram at Groovy Movies Pod or email us groovymoviespod@gmail.com.
Groovy Movies was produced and edited by Lily Austin.
Music and sound by James Brailsford.
Our logo was designed by Abby Jo Sheldon.
For references and more information about the films discussed, check out the show notes.